Hey guys, due to popular demand, I've decided to rank every single area in B33, version 1.0.2 specifically. Basically every single area that resides inside the castle itself. Basically, if the area is not only accessible via painting or level warp, it's fair game. My criteria for ranking will be a bit different from the level ranking, due to there not being any stars in most of these areas. I'll mostly just be ranking them based on how much I like them visually and how many notable set pieces there are in these areas, such as cool looking decor, interesting NPCs, etc. I may also be grouping certain areas together due to them either serving a similar purpose gameplay wise or just being near identical visually. Now let's get started with 121 Purple Twisted Hallway and 120 Red Twisted Hallway. These small areas come from Mario Classified and they're not really interesting at all. It's just two hallways that will start to flash brightly while the AI talks to you. These areas really only serve as areas that take you from the main castle grounds to the Twisted variant. Not really bad, but extremely forgettable. 119 Breaking the Barrier. This area has a few issues that a few areas taken from other ROM hacks have in B33, where the areas become a husk of their former selves. Breaking the Barrier is the biggest case. It's essentially just one room with 4 doors that connect to each other. There's essentially nothing here of note at all. When entering, you can sometimes get dialogue from Bowser taunting you, which is a bit interesting, as this is one of the few times Bowser communicates with you directly. But other than that, there's nothing here. It's weird because other areas taken from Breaking the Barrier are adapted much better, as you'll see later on the list, so it's strange how this one was so neglected. 118 Stairway to Nowhere. A pretty cool looking room, but for being an entire area, it really doesn't have anything at all. It's just a gateway room to another much cooler area. I do like the subtle eeriness to the room with its lack of music and everything. It's a good contrast to the pretty chill lobby that you entered it from. Nothing really bad, it's just so small that it can't really go any higher. 117 Purple Castle. Now Purple Castle really shows the main issues with some of the areas in 1.0, and that is lack of substance. The area is quite large and looks like it could contain a good amount of stuff, but there's practically nothing here. So many of the rooms are just empty and have no purpose. The single level here can be accessed in a different area entirely. The area really just has no substance whatsoever. It's kinda cool when you first find it. There's never really a reason to return here due to there just being nothing. I don't think every area needs to be packed with content, but one as large as this, I think it needs something more than one level. It's quite unfortunate. 116 Twisted Lobby. The first of the many lobby variations in B33. This area's placement feels kind of odd, not being inside of the castle and Twisted Castle grounds, but instead being crammed between the Twisted hallways. None of the doors here that would take you to a level actually work here, which is really unfortunate. You can find a sign here that tells you to walk quietly. I think it kinda makes no sense being here. I do actually like the color scheme of this area quite a lot, and I think this area had potential to be a lot cooler. Since the Twisted Castle grounds are meant to be a mirrored version of the main castle grounds, I think mirrored versions of the game's beta lobby levels would be a really cool concept. Something to give this lobby more of a purpose. 115 Uncanny Courtyard Crimson. I'm ranking all the courtyard areas separately due to them being quite different to each other. This version of the courtyard is by far the worst though. You can't really see anything at all here until you enter the fountain, where it turns into the windy variant. There's nothing notable here whatsoever, mostly due to the fact that you were blind the entire time. It's kinda cool when you first see it, I guess, but otherwise this area is really weak. I feel like a star or something could have been hidden here, or something, but alas, this area is quite low. 114 Underground Passageway. This area has always been strange to me. It's just a hallway between Plexel upstairs and Nebula lobby, and it being categorized as an entire hub area is really weird. As I said, it's just a hallway. It's not really bad though. The track that plays here is pretty good. Unfortunately, you probably won't be here long enough to hear it in full. And there's a pipe that is quite well hidden leading to the 4th floor. I didn't actually know about this pipe for a while. Otherwise, this area does what it sets out to do, and its unique color scheme and music makes it solid. Unlike the level ranking, there's a lot less bad than good with these lobbies, as these areas are usually much more detailed and well thought out. 113 Tubular Lobby. This area is kind of interesting, serving as a gateway and sending point of a lot of areas. This area's origins come from some weird photo too. The lobby consists of several similar rooms with the same shape but with different textures. This is the only area you can find a guaranteed white coin as well. The area was redesigned completely from 0.9 to 1.0 as well. It's pretty cool, but this is an area you'll find yourself in so much where it gets a bit old. And unlike other lobbies that you frequent, there's not really enough here to make it interesting. 112 Dream Castle. Taken from the Dream 64 hack, this small castle is definitely memorable but not for the best reasons. The The two things that are notable here is the awful music playing and the constant splashing you'll hear from the Goombas found below, which can get grating fast. The aesthetic's really weird, feeling like a mix of lobbies, making it very incoherent. I think it makes sense if this castle's meant to be dreamlike though. I like how the metal and vanish cap are required to gather the red star. It kind of pushes you to find the two caps if you end up here without them. Some other interesting set pieces include another empty painting you can find and some destroyed doors that'll take you to polygonal chaos. This area feels like the AI was just messing around and decided to throw some random bullshit together. 111, Crimson Hallway. Another one of these crimson areas. My main complaint is the name itself. The crimson visuals just aren't really fun to look at due to it just clouding your vision. Also, this lobby is not really a hallway. The random floating chairs that attack you within the lobby are kinda unique, I guess, and the strange maze section leading to the Bowser fight's pretty cool too. I think the main thing of interest here is a boo that can be found. Quite unassuming at first, but if you're in Act 1, letting the boo kill you will take you to Monochrome Castle grounds, serving as a really convenient shortcut. I'm glad this was added, as the only way to get here previously is by fighting Bowser. It's honestly a really weird warp and I think should have been explained somewhere in game, but the random nature does make sense when it comes to B33. It's a solid area. 110, Lobby.z64 Beta. This area is the beta rendition of the normal Lobby.z64 lobby, but I don't like it as much as that one. I really like how the camera just has you pointed straight at the door with no music, opposed to the normal slanted camera when you enter the beta lobbies. It makes it stand out especially when you first enter. My main gripe with this lobby is just how frequently you end up here. Once you grab the red star from the painting, returning is pointless and is a dead end. So you just have to fast travel away every time. I think if this area was much rarer, I'd like it a lot more. 109, Fabricated Courtyard. This is one of the many courtyards in B33. Unfortunately, it doesn't stand out too much on its own. It looks a lot like Uncanny Courtyard, but is lacking the whole behind section. Some set pieces here are cool, like the well and how killing the boos here sometimes gives you the same text that you would get from killing them in Big Boo's Haunt. I like the brick pattern in this area though, it's quite visually appealing. Otherwise, this area is kinda forgettable. 108, The Void, and 107, Dark Hallway. These areas are very similar, so I'm ranking them together. The areas are sort of strange. You'll walk along a large dark path to grab a star, but it's a fake, or you'll be teleported to the void. After walking for a bit, you can find a sign in a giant pit. The sign's dialogue is a lot different depending on what version of B33 you're playing, but it's essentially talking to you as the player, mentioning how you're trying to escape reality again. Jumping in the pit takes you back to the castle grounds. A weird area, held back by just being visually quite boring. It's probably an area you'll never find yourself in again after entering it once. 106, Challenge Lobby. Another area from Mario Classified. I like what this area represents in the story. Where in Mario Classified, Mario is trapped here until he completes the 4 challenges. While that same idea is not carried over to B33, the levels here are some of the best in the game, but I'm not ranking those today. Visually, this lobby has the same aesthetic as the vanilla lobbies from base game, so it doesn't stand out too much. But the constant ticking of the clock that can be found here is kinda ominous. The little room with the eyeless Peach painting is also a cool visual. The area is mostly just held back due to its small size, but it's not bad. Compared to the level ranking, a lot of these lower ones are pretty good. The gap between each lobby is way smaller than the levels quality-wise. 105, Challenge Lobby Dark. Similar to the regular Challenge Lobby, but a lot creepier. All the doors are blocked off, and the lack of music makes the constant clock ticking a lot more pronounced. Not much to say otherwise, I just like it a little bit more than the regular Challenge Lobby. 104, Purple Upstairs. This area is essentially the exact same as the vanilla Sm64 Upstairs, but purple. The only somewhat unique area is a little lobby section that is added before the stairs. A lot of the warps that be found in the normal upstairs are missing, along with the paintings mostly being different. The area is inspired from an old Sm64 ARG, made by Nin Paradigm. I like it more than the Purple Castle, due to there being some stuff to actually find, and its size not being massive and just having nothing in it. 103, Toad's Rec Room. By far the smallest lobby in the entire game, being a single room. I don't know, I like it. It's very visually distinct, being based on the color scheme from the Rec Room from DS, and having to hit all the boxes to find the stars, a fun little minigame. What's actually kinda weird here is the Bowser painting you can find above the door. It looks normal at first until you realize the smile's been stretched out to make it a little bigger. The only other place where this change is made is inside Castle Depths, which makes more sense as it's a creepier area, but why was this painting specifically chosen to be changed like this? I think it was most likely a mistake, but it's still kinda weird. 102, Goomba Garden. This is an L-shaped area with a few Goombas. It's kinda hard to call it a garden though. The area feels so mysterious in nature. It has no music playing at all and no place of origin whatsoever. It also has a much different design in older B33 versions that were arguably better, so its change is odd. It's just a small little area that serves as a hallway between two larger ones. While that's relatively normal in B33, this one stands out for being just kinda weird, due to it being placed right next to underground hallways, an area that's implied to be one of the AI's first creations. I theorize that Goomba Garden is a super early area creation, explaining why it's so simple. Fortunately, there ain't much here, so it's pretty low. 101, Ghostly Courtyard. Another courtyard, and I quite like this one. It's definitely the most dreary of the courtyards, with the pitch black sky and presence of many boos. Interestingly, the boo statue here is based off the modern Sm64 boos, opposed to the beta ones in-game, and standing on the statue will also warp you away. The presence of debris on the ground really implies that the boo sort of invaded the courtyard, and I really like the idea of that, and think it could have been translated into base 64 a lot better. The courtyard being so calm and peaceful, with just like a dozen boos chilling there, never felt right to me. I think the idea of it starting out how Ghostly Courtyard looks, but once clearing Big Boo's haunt, it transforms back to how it looks in Sm64, would have been a pretty neat idea. Anyways, back to this area. I think it is pretty good, but again, it's quite small, so I can't put it super high. 100, Floor 4B. I don't know if this one's that controversial, but I'm not the biggest fan of Floor 4B. That mostly has to do with its similar issues that Purple Castle has, which is its size and how little content is actually here. My main issue is most of this area's levels are all stuffed in like one hallway, leaving the rest of the lobby barren. It makes exploring it genuinely annoying. About like 70% of this lobby just has nothing and is just constant looping of doors, with nothing much visually to look at. If more of this area's levels were spread out among the lobby, I think it would make getting lost a lot more fun, as there'd be more to find. But as it is, it's so easy to get lost here, and not being able to leave. It's a lot higher than Purple Castle due to there being a solid amount of levels here, and the ones that are here are quite good. But there aren't really many set pieces to talk about other than maybe the Crusher Room being quite cool. And how this area being directly connected to what appears to be Mario and Luigi's house is kinda weird too. Not horrible, but I think it's the worst compared to 3B and 2B. 99, Silent Hall. As the name suggests, this area is a small hallway, notably with no music. This area is where you find the Vanish Cap, along with branching off to a couple other areas. The main thing of note here is the Vanish Cap painting itself, and it's one of my favorites in the entire game. Mario's cat being on the ground with a small dimly lit spotlight shining on it, surrounded by darkness, is just a really cool visual. I love how not only it looks really creepy, looking like one of those old creepy game over screens, but is also relatively accurate to how the Vanish Cap works, as it's dropped as a cap that sits on the ground. I love the creepier elements in B33 that genuinely look like they could have been in base 64. There's more stuff like it I'll talk about later on, but this painting is by far the standout, but otherwise the area is okay. I like how it's entered via a small side section on the castle though, that's pretty cool. 98, Uncanny Library. Another area taken from Classified. It doesn't stand out a ton, but there are a few elements that I enjoy. Firstly, when you enter the dark area through one of the doors, the music just stops entirely. This almost never happens in B33, and it's really weird and sudden on a first-time playthrough. You can also find a big L is real plaque on the wall too, and I really wonder who that could be talking about. I don't know who starts with L in this game. I think my favorite part of this area is when grabbing the Vanish Cap and entering the pit, you'll be sent through a large descent with scary music and Bowser paintings laughing at you on the way down, to then be spit out of a showerhead in the castle's bathroom. I like the tonal shift a lot. And I also really like the idea of living inside this castle and the only way to enter the bathroom is by falling 200 feet down and dying. 97, Vanilla Upstairs, and 96, Mirrored Upstairs. Quite literally an almost exact replica of the Sm64 upstairs, though there are a couple changes worth talking about, like how the warp to Wing Mario over the sky has been replaced with a lethal lava land stage, and of course the stages and paintings being changed. Mirrored Upstairs is the same, but mirrored, whoa, and with a couple different levels, and it goes a bit higher, because I think being mirrored does make it more visually distinct. I also think the pink walls look really nice, especially on the top floor. It really fits more due to Peach's generally pink color scheme. If you really like the upstairs from Super Mario 64, then you're bound to get a kick out of these lobbies. 95. Plexel Basement 2. Kind of a strange name, along with this area not really resembling Plexel Basement 1 at all. It looks a lot more like the beta lobbies. Anyways, this area is alright, and has some cool stuff, such as the infinite hallway that can be found, where the game teases you with a level that can sadly not be entered, even with glitches. I don't think the hallway is ever given any origin, I think it was just put there as an epic troll. Anyways, the little section of hallways that contain the Mr. Eye painting is also pretty goofy looking, as the painting is just in the void. My main complaint is this area's visual inconsistencies. It doesn't really choose a style at all. Some of it looks like the beta lobbies, it has a little sewer section, and a section with yellowish walls. So this area always just blends together in my mind, and I forget it's even its own thing. And not just part of some other larger lobby. It has enough cool stuff to stand out a bit though. 94. Dark Lobby. This area, unfortunately, is one that's gotten a lot worse over time. It's a version of Vanilla Lobby, but modeled a lot more off of Bowser, or Big Boo Haunt level. None of the doors here work, so no levels can be entered. I mentioned how this area got worse over time, and that's because there actually used to be levels here, until they got removed or taken to other areas. That's a shame. I feel like there should be some levels behind these doors. It kinda has the same issue as Twisted Lobby. You can ground pound the carpet to get to more areas, and the massive hallway section with all the boos is pretty cool. It's actually an area type that's used quite frequently in game. And I like how this area is placed, kinda as a fake out. It's placed behind the doors in Vanilla Lobby that would normally take you outside the castle. So you try to exit, but you're just in more castle. Should've listened to the Toad. There is no outside. Anyway, even though it shares some issues with Twisted Lobby, I like it a lot more due to being placed in a much better area, thematically. Looking better and having a few areas it connects to. 93. Lobby.z64. Now onto the other .z64 area, and this one is based on a video made by Jeff-tastic, showcasing a creepypasta hack where Mario progressively enters Peach's castle in Bob-omb Battlefield, while it slowly gets more and more empty, until a strange entity finishes Mario off. It was translated quite well into B33. The more empty castle ground section was incorporated into a different area I'll talk about later, but the actual lobby is still quite eerie. Just having the normal Peach's castle, but with so many elements missing and no music makes it feel so wrong, especially with the door being blocked off too. This area is quite a bit better than the beta version, mostly due to the fact that you won't be forced to see it all the time, and I like it more visually as well. 92. Funhouse. Funhouse is actually an area that is a direct import from an unused level in Sm64 found back in 2020 when the Giga Leak happened. Not much is actually known about it other than it was possibly a prototype of Peach's castle. It definitely stands out a lot visually, as each surface is a different texture. When you first find this place, it seems like a dead end until you realize that all the doors are hidden behind walls. The main issue here is that the areas Funhouse connects to are areas you never really want to ever visit, one being Forest Maze, a mostly troll area, an uncanny courtyard, an area that is much easier to find in other ways. Along with this area being quite large, it can be frustrating to even find where these hidden doors are located. It kinda leads me to never really wanting to come here again. It's still a pretty cool area though, and it's memorable enough. 91. The Star. The Star is a strange area that's used as a small little hub between the beta lobbies and the third floor beta. The music here is a remix of Donut Plains from Mario World, and the area's layout also seems to be inspired by the Star World from that game. The area is quite similar to Star Road as well, another area with a similar name and shape. The dark sky and orange hue make this level quite calming to chill in, though I kinda forget about it all the time as I never really end up coming here again. Number 90. Aquarium Lobby. This area is a somewhat altered version of the Jolly Roger Bay room, altered to be more like a lobby. The lobby's quite small and out of the way, so I usually forget about it, with a small maze section in the level Dry Downtown. The lobby was created by Dynalox, a B33 contributor, who also made Pink Upstairs. There's not a ton to say about this area, it's a bit forgettable due to it being quite out of the way and not having much content or anything interesting to note. 89. Twisted Castle Grounds. The first of the Castle Grounds areas, Twisted Castle Grounds originates from the Mario Classified series, a mirrored and inverted version of the Castle Grounds where the waterfalls were placed with blood. And you can even find Mario taking a swim. This area looks really cool honestly. The dark blues and purples along with the weird inverted music make this area stand out a lot. You can actually find a hidden corridor behind the clock symbol here, with doors that will warp you back to the moat. A strange inclusion. Anyways, this is another area that you probably won't visit a lot due to there being no stars or levels of any of that, but it's still quite cool nonetheless. I think it would have been cool if some warps that don't work, such as the Void Hallway, took you to new twisted areas or something. 88. His Domain. His Domain's layout is based on two different images that were made as liminal space Mario 64 areas, and His Domain kinda stitches the two into an area. The first room is noticeably different, with its paintings being changed, along with the star door just being a normal door, while the second room is completely unchanged. There's only one escape from here, and that is by entering the pipe behind the movable block, where you'll be sent to the Fountain of Truth, a nice area where you can find Luigi taking a swim in the fountain. The area His Domain is most likely a reference to the area of the same name in Warped Worlds, though the emphasis on Luigi is kinda strange, as he was not really relevant whatsoever in Warped Worlds. It's possible then that His Domain is meant to be referring to Luigi in that case. A solid area conceptually, but coming here is a dead end, so there's never a reason to come back. You can also find the super crusty Bowser painting here, so this area is actually number 1, sorry guys. 87, Fake Lobby. This lobby is pretty interesting. It's a single room that looks almost identical to Vanilla Lobby, but a few things are off. Mainly the lighting being a lot more dim than the normal lobby, with a lot of shadows lining the walls, and the area just being darker overall. Along with there being no stairs up to the balcony section, instead being a single stair. The doors here, with the exception of the one at the top, do not work either. This lobby originates from the E3 1996 build of Mario 64. What's interesting is that this lobby's effect can be somewhat replicated in Base 64. Lighting is tied to the camera, so looking away actually replicates the effect of Fake Lobby, along with all the doors not being rendered. I'm not sure if this was intentional or not, but it's pretty cool. This lobby is similar to Twisted Lobby in a way, where the doors don't work, but I think it makes more sense here since it's meant to be a more eerie, fake version of the vanilla lobby. Though I guess fake versions of the main 4 levels would be pretty cool, but I still like this lobby quite a bit. 86, Fabricated Castle Grounds. Another Castle Grounds area, and this one is already quite a big improvement from Twisted Grounds. The fabricated areas have always been kinda strange. The name Fabricated implies it was made up and created by the AI, but every area sort of was made up by the AI. The area heavily resembles the normal Castle Grounds in-game, but is noticeably smaller and the backyard missing. It's also a lot more similar to the Castle Grounds we ended up getting in Base 64. This area is honestly really out of the way, and it's kinda cool how you enter this area first from the courtyard, then into the castle, and then finally the Castle Grounds themselves, as it's usually the other way around for most lobbies. This area being so tucked away just makes it kinda cool to visit. And there's a reason to do so, as there's a level present here. I think it just sort of overshadowed by the normal Castle Grounds, as there's a lot more stuff in it than this one does. But I like it anyway. 85, Forest Maze. This is definitely the trolliest area in B33. It's a small room where you're presented with 3 doors. One of them will have you eternally loop into the same room over and over. One will bait you into something with the walls changing colors, only to just warp you back to the beginning. And the final door will edge you into getting jump scared, like a different area, but will take you to Bowser's Castle instead. This is one of those areas I mentioned before being connected to the funhouse. This area is funny, but it also just kind of fucking sucks. In a good way. What's really funny is a warp here is placed outside a Big Boo Haunt level, where if you die or grab a star, you'll just be sent here, and that's like really funny. I do like how this area looks though, and the Mario RPG music used is really good. But yeah, other than the green star, just don't come here unless you like getting trolled. 84 to 80. Beta lobbies C, B, A, E, and D. In that exact order are all 5 beta lobbies. Grouped together because, well, they're almost all the exact same. Anyways, I'll say all the differences here. Beta Lobby A is the first one, with all the B-roll levels. Beta Lobby B has the courtyard and the upstairs warps changed, with the paintings also being different. Beta Lobby C has a few missing paintings, but also leads directly to Beta Lobby D, the most unique one. I guess due to it having the only one that you can't enter by looking up in the sky, and also having a unique pattern leading to where the courtyard would go. And finally, Beta Lobby E, which is the exact same as Beta Lobby A, with different UI and different levels, but like, not really. C is the worst one because it has less levels, and D is the best because it's the one you won't be seeing every 2 minutes unless you go out of your way to. These areas are sort of iconic. I say they're the most standout areas in B33, but I think I'd give that to Plexel Lobby. The 5 different lobby system is something that's actually pretty cool and unique, especially when you first play and you think it just randomly changes. The beta aesthetic looks cool too, though you might get a bit tired of it due to how much you'll end up in these lobbies. But there being 5 of them really helps getting around the Plexus, since they all branch into different areas. Not the most unique areas, but extremely helpful and iconic. 79, Flooded Basement. This area is where Luigi tragically drowned in Mario Classified. Guy can't swim apparently. Anyways, in Classified, he enters this area through what appears to be floor 3B, but in B33, there are a few ways to enter this area, all of them being a one-way ticket since there ain't a way to escape. The basement always never really fit in Sm64 with the random water and kind of strange design, and it looks a lot creepier when you're forced to drown here. The silence while you only hear the ticking of your health bar adds a lot to this area's vibe. It's really hard to talk about this area, honestly just watch the promo show episode of the Classified series as it kind of captures the entire premise of it. It's cool, but due to it just being an area where you die, you probably won't come back unless you so happen to stumble on one of the few warps here. 78, Vanilla Basement. Wow, look at that, the basement's all dry now. For the most part, this area is essentially the exact same as the basement for Mario 64, with the same warps working as usual and such. But coming here at night, you'll notice a few things. Firstly, the music is now the Big Boo's Haunt music instead of the normal castle tune. Walking a bit, you'll suddenly get jump scared by the fire bubble that resided inside the Lethal Lava Land painting. I think this one is one of the only horror events to actually startle me, because it really just comes out of nowhere, while the others usually have some build-up. though it really sucks when you want to clear some levels down here during night, and you're unable to due to the bubble. But it's a really cool scare nonetheless. Visually, it's just the basement for Mario 64, you've seen it plenty of times. Though there is one difference being another small hallway leading to floor 3B, so that's pretty neat I guess. 77. Hybrid Lobby. This lobby is kinda similar to Plexel Lobby 2 in a way for me. Since it's so similar to other lobbies, I kinda just forget it exists sometimes. That's mostly with the aesthetic here. The color scheme is the exact same as the beta lobbies and Plexel Lobby, so it doesn't really stand out, along with not having unique music either. Though I do like how open-ended this lobby is compared to most of them, specifically the main room that contains a bunch of doors to other areas. The name Hybrid Lobby is actually a reference to how this lobby was a collaboration between multiple developers, unlike most other lobbies that were usually made by one person. I think this area needed more levels though. There's so much area here, but only one level is actually here. There's a couple of notable things though, like the weird white-eyed peach painting that sends you to Vanilla Lobby. You don't really expect to find something like that in a relatively normal area like this. You can also find a weird dark blue star above one of the doorways too. This is the only time that kind of star shows up in game, and it's kind of weird. What could it mean or represent? I'm unsure, but this lobby's pretty solid nonetheless. 76. Solar Tower. There's not a ton to talk about with this area, I just really like how it looks. You're on what appears to be a giant castle spire where you can fly around for red coins. The biggest thing of note you can find here is the Eternal Sun statue. A statue that is meant to parallel the Eternal Star and moon statues you can find in Super Mario 64 and B33. What it is meant to represent, I'm unsure. Maybe something to do with Luigi since he was directly connected to the Eternal Star statue. The music playing here is great too. I really like the outdoor areas a lot in B33 since they kind of give you a break from constantly wandering the interior halls. Though this area is pretty small so there's not really much to talk about, so it's pretty low on the list overall. 75. Cryptic Hideout. This area starts off as a large hallway until you enter the main room that branches off. The color scheme here is quite nice. I like the night sky wall pattern mixed with the purple. It's a cool aesthetic. You can find a few NPCs here. First up a bomb who calls you pale, but not as pale as he is. I think this is most likely referring to the AI, who you'll coincidentally find in this area by taking the rightmost door. You'll be met with a small hallway before you get sent to a massive void where it seems like Mario is just standing, admiring the darkness, until you approach them and you get attacked. This is probably where most players first find the AI, and you can find them in a few locations in B33. This one is definitely the least cryptic. Another Babam here tells you that you made the right choice by choosing the left path, the path that doesn't lead to the AI. This line is interesting because it implies that most NPCs were created by the AI, so it's strange that its own minions or mouthpieces are aware that you shouldn't go near them. Probably doesn't mean much, but it's still interesting. Anyways, this area is solid. The level here is decent, and having an AI encounter along with some NPCs makes it pretty unique. 74. Corrupted Beta Lobby and Fabricated Lobby. I'm ranking these together due to being pretty much the same. Corrupted Beta Lobby probably is one of the strangest stars in the game. By looking up at the ceiling in Fabricated Lobby, you get teleported here, and a 40-second cooldown starts, similar to the one that shows up in other areas, where it counts up to 40 and you die. To escape, you have to find a random wall that you can just walk through, where you'll then be teleported to the star. I don't think I've ever actually seen anybody find this area in any playthrough I've seen. That's honestly the same for most of the Fabricated areas. Fabricated Lobby is similar. I like the color scheme more than the beta lobbies. The darker tones and dark red carpet are a lot nicer on the eyes. I also like the 4 levels here a good bit more. It's similar to the beta lobbies, but the Peach's slide door instead takes you to what looks like a weird tiny huge island room. It's sort of weird. But yeah, I like this area quite a bit. 73. Floor 3B. Another one of the B areas, I guess you can call them. And 3B is meant to be sort of another interpretation of Floor 2B, the first of all these floors. Floor 3B, though, is unfortunately really overshadowed by 2B, due to 2B being way larger and with more content. 3B's main room is very similar to the iconic 2B room, but obviously yellow. I don't think the color scheme works as well as the normal blue castle walls does in 2B. The area is essentially a very scaled down version of 2B, with the area being separated between the main room and a separate room you can access by swimming underwater. And that's essentially it. This area is actually quite useful though. It serves as sort of a gateway point to a lot of other areas due to the amount of warps it has, but only containing 2 levels of its own. It's really hard to talk about this area since it really is just a weaker version of 2B, an area that spoilers is way later down on the list, though I still enjoy the area and find myself here a lot when exploring. 72. Sunny Courtyard and 71. Uncanny Courtyard. Both of these are really similar in layout, so I'm ranking them together. Now when you first enter Uncanny Courtyard, you might think it's near identical to the layout of Vanilla Courtyard, but you can actually go behind the wall where a massive field with a maze can be found, and even another castle. The maze section is inspired from the promo show episode in Classified, where Luigi collects the 8 red coins here, or after he gets sent to Sunny Courtyard. Speaking of, Sunny Courtyard has the same layout but with much prettier colors. There's not much reason to actually go here other than being forced to after grabbing the 8 red coin star. But the vibe is really chill, so I like it. It's a bit worse than Uncanny due to having a bit less content, due to there not being a level here or anything, and it's a bit out of the way to get to, but I still like it. 70. Haunted Castle Grounds. Now on the surface this area may seem a bit high, just being the same as the main castle grounds but bright red. But I like what this area sort of represents in the story. You get sent here after ruins in the Blood Lake, an area that sort of gives off bad ending vibes. Haunted Castle Grounds sort of plays on that. The music here is the merry-go-round music from Mario 64, a song that sort of taunts you. If you find this area without all 13 red stars, it's a dead end, and the only way out is by entering the castle, which takes you right back to the very start. It really feels like the game is kinda just messing with you by saying better luck next time, and I kinda like that element. The Toad statue also being decapitated here is kinda creepy visual too. 69. Bowser's Prison. I always kind of forget this is its own area and not just part of Bowser's floor. Anyways, this area is pretty neat. It's a long hallway with a bunch of cells holding various friendly NPCs, such as Toads, Yoshis, and Bob-omb buddies. You can't actually talk to any of these guys normally, and using cheats just has them say placeholder text. My favorite section is the throne room though. It's big enough where you can sort of see the fog settle ahead, and I think that just looks really cool. Though looking outside one of the windows sort of just lets you see some of the previous area in a sloppy way. The worst part of this area though is this stupid pipe here that just warps you back to Plexo Lobby for some reason. I guess if you want to get there quickly, but it's so out of the way I really wish it sent you somewhere new instead. It's a solid area for what it's worth. 68. Uncanny Basement. This is another classified area where in the original Mario is being chased down by an entity that is most likely the Wario apparition, though he's not present here. In B33 this is just a gateway area that leads to a few other areas in the Plexus, most notably being a one-way exit from Twisted Castle Grounds. This area is pretty solid. The large amount of fog along with the somewhat stressful music can make this area feel kinda stressful when you enter it, always feeling like something is chasing you. This is also one of the few maze areas I actually get lost in a lot, which can be kind of annoying when I'm trying to find a specific exit, but still. I think Basement Maze, an area that appears later, is really just a direct upgrade from this one though. The area does what it's trying to do well anyways. 67. Garden. A super small and honestly forgettable area, but I really like it for what it is. It's one of the few outdoor areas that aren't just the castle grounds, and I really like all of them. A lot of these outdoor areas are going to be later down on the ranking. Anyways, this area seems to be inspired by an area in Sm64 Warped Worlds. There's not really much of a purpose to this area in game, but I don't know, it's really peaceful and chill. The sunset vibe's just kinda relaxing. 66. Nightmare Basement. A pretty spooky area added in 1.0. This area is taken from the ROM hack Dream64. You enter here when exiting the normal vanilla courtyard, where the hallway may seem noticeably darker. The doors to the main lobby do not work, and the only way forward is heading to the basement. The basement is near identical to Vanilla Basement, just much darker with no music. You can find a normal and green star here as well, and can leave by jumping down into the Hazy Maze Cave, where you'll then be dropped outside. Then enter the door to head back to Vanilla Lobby. This area is most comparable to Flooded Basement, both being dark versions of the Vanilla Basement, though one is obviously flooded. Nightmare Basement is a lot better due to the fact that there are actually stars to grab here, and you can escape without dying or warping out. Just being above water is more fun than being forced to swim anyway. 65. Pink Upstairs. Now unlike most of the upstairs area, this one is somewhat changed, as in a lot of the doors being blocked off or some of the structure being changed. I don't know why, but the bright pink color scheme is just really unique. It's not something you're really used to seeing in B33 or even Base 64. Every single painting also just being a peach painting is kind of weird too. Who needs that many photos of themselves? One of the doors here you can actually BLJ through to get some weird warp shenanigans to send you to either SGI Indy or Shadow Forest. And you can jump through a painting here as well to get sent to Mirrored Upstairs. Now there are no stars or levels here, but I don't know. I like this area for just being kind of weird. 64. Third Floor Beta. This lobby is notable for having its levels all share a similar theme. This and the lobby after all contain the game's many test levels. Now sadly B33's test levels are by far the worst, so that kinda sucks. Now about the lobby itself, I quite like it. It's kinda weird having a lobby that's actually sort of a dead end, since once you enter this area there's no way to necessarily leave, as you're stuck between this lobby and 4th Floor Beta. The dark blue walls look quite nice visually too. And the main room seems to take inspiration from the 3rd floor in Base 64,
with the 2 levels you can enter to the left and right. The actual quantity of levels here is really high, but unfortunately, as I said before, the levels here are very forgettable and bad for the most part. I like how you enter one of them by using the vanish cap to enter the mirror though, that's pretty creative. Otherwise, there's not much else to talk about. 63. Escape Route. This is a weird area that appears to be a dilapidated version of the outside of Peach's castle, with broken geometry and terrain to cross, eventually leading to a massive dark expanse that eventually takes you to another lobby. There's not really a place of origin when it comes to this area. In game it seems to be an escape route from Bowser's prison, as you can find this area under some boxes in one of the cells. This sort of implies someone or something carved an entire route to escape imprisonment. There's no super practical reason to come out here, as there are other ways to enter the lobby that escape route takes you to. But I really like how this area looks anyway. The giant castle in the darkness just looks kinda creepy, especially without music too. A solid area. 62. Bowser's Castle. For being an area that is iconic as Bowser's Castle, its theme and layout really don't resemble it much at all. When you think Bowser's Castle, you usually think of lava and traps and dark colors like grays and browns. But in B33, the castle is adorned with red wallpaper, the same kind that is in Peach's castle, a garden room, and other rooms that mimic the main castle. And it's honestly kinda weird. The only semblance of this being Bowser's castle is a toad you can find here who tells you that the princess is in another castle, obviously being a reference to the original Mario Bros. Another toad NPC here can also give you a star, only at night. One of the few things the day-night cycle actually has an impact on in-game. Other than that, there are no levels here or anything, but this area has a good few warps to other areas. So it's a good gateway. At least there's a star here, so it's not entirely useless. The actual structure of this area can be kinda confusing though, due to it being so cramped, so it's easy to get lost a little bit. A solid area, but I don't think the name really fits it too well. 61. Vanilla Lobby. A replica of the main lobby from Sm64, though it's actually changed quite noticeably, with tons of warps leading to many areas. This makes Vanilla Lobby actually one of the most useful areas in the game when it comes to exploration. The main changes from base Vanilla Lobby are the stairs being changed to big steps, being able to ground pound the sun carpet to access another area. The middle Peach portrait in the slide room has a small hallway leading to Parallel Lobby, and a much larger hallway being hidden behind the portrait in the main room, so as all the paintings of course leading to different levels. This makes it stand out a lot more than Vanilla Upstairs and Vanilla Basement, as those areas don't really offer much change compared to Vanilla Lobby. It's only not higher due to just being visually, well, it's just the Vanilla Lobby from Sm64. We've all seen it a million times, so it's not really special. Though finding it for the first time can be quite disorienting after exploring so many beta areas and just entirely made up areas. 60. Bro's House. As the name suggests, this area seems to be Mario and Luigi's house, as the 2 beds found here are red and green. The house is very small, containing 2 floors with only the 2 beds and a table downstairs, and a crate that contains a green star. You can also find a book here behind Mario's bed titled The End, possibly a reference to the Classified video 90297. Now I don't believe this area is actually Mario and Luigi's house per se, due to it being so directly linked with the plexus. The upstairs door taking you to 4B, which makes no sense when you look at the house from the outside. The area is pretty cool to find when playing, since you don't really expect to find Mario and Luigi's house. There's not really much to find here other than the green star though, and the house is quite visually plain. But it's what you'd expect from a small house. It's a pretty cool area, and one that you won't really expect to find. 59. Uncanny Courtyard, Windy. My favorite version of the courtyard out of all 3, well, kind of 4 states. You get the windy variant to show up by entering the fountain in the peaceful state, or entering the door from Plexo Lobby. It's my favorite visually due to the previously climbable wall being replaced with a massive maze behind, where you can find a few things, such as a green star and a statue hidden behind one of the walls leading to the checkerboards. The darker, foggier visuals along with the sound of the harsh wind add a bit of an eerie feeling, which makes sense. This courtyard is essentially what became of Peaceful Courtyard after Luigi's demise in the Mario Classified series, due to the presence of the El Israel statue, something that's coincidentally missing from the Peaceful variant. Overall, I like the eerie feeling of this courtyard the best, and it's my favorite version out of all the many courtyards in the game. 58. Balcony. This area is one of the few what I call 4-door crossroad areas. There are a couple of these, such as 4th floor and Genesis basement. Areas that, as the name suggests, act like little hubs that branch into even more areas, but usually just with 4 doors, 2 on each side. Balcony is definitely the simplest of these. Visually, it's just a regal white balcony with several pillars and a pretty nice view outside. Jumping off the balcony actually takes you to Uncanny Courtyard, which is pretty cool. Kinda gives the plexus some sort of structure and makes sense layout-wise. The area's layout is inspired from a ROM hack called The 4th Floor, an unfinished hack created by Gronodi, The music here is really nice too. It's exclusive to this area and it makes it stand out quite a bit. Other than that, the area is nothing crazy, but it's one you'll most likely find yourself in quite frequently due to the many warps it contains. 57. Crescent Castle. This lobby is one of the weirder ones due to not really having a visual theme. The first large room you enter is bright blue, but as you enter some of the other rooms, the color scheme is a combination of some other areas in game. Rooms with brown brick walls, dark blue walls like in 3rd floor beta, and the classic cloud walls of the main castle. It makes this area kind of stand out by not standing out in a way. There's some notable areas in here too. Entering the leftmost door and entering the pipe takes you to a replica of Bowser's hallway that ends up being a trap where you'll fall into blood or enter the peach painting to the delicious cake level. It's sort of a weird inclusion in an area like this. The area honestly seems like something you would find in Fake Lobby. I think it would be kinda cool there. Speaking of Fake Lobby, you can also get there via a hidden door behind a wall. Hidden doors like this are really only found here and in the funhouse. Another thing here is a warp taking you all the way to Bowser's floor. Incredibly useful, as getting there normally takes a really long time. Anyways, yeah, this lobby's quite useful, but I think the lack of a super direct theme kinda makes it a bit forgettable, but it's still in the upper half of these lobbies. 56. Imperfect Sanctuary Lobby. One of the more unsettling areas, it's a massive hallway with blue carpet and checkered flooring, with several beams of light shining down on the sides. Honestly reminds me of a church or some other holy location. No music plays here, but what can be heard is Peach calling out for Mario. Going forward more, the hallway will become pitch black for a bit, only being lined with Peach portraits. Then finally you'll reach the star and the source of the voice, being a single Peach painting. You can either grab the star here or enter the painting, which will warp you to Vanilla Lobby. The lobby's name is sort of strange, being an imperfect version of some supposed sanctuary lobby. But what would have this sanctuary lobby looked like? The lobby is an original creation, so there's not really much to go off of, due to it not being present in any other ROM hack. But the lobby is still pretty cool and eerie nonetheless. 55. 4th floor. This area is similar to Balcony, another room with 4 doorways leading to different areas, but also with 2 pipes in the center of the room. The lobby's design looks like a more regal version of the beta lobby, with a fancier lined carpet and several pillars lining the walls. Due to the many doors and pipes, this lobby is quite useful to get to key areas, mainly Nebula Lobby, Bowser's Domain, and Polygonal Chaos. It is extremely close to all the beta lobbies, being connected to Beta Lobby C. The strangest part of this lobby is the little courtyard section that's straight ahead. Entering it will completely disable the music, and only the chirping of birds and ambient sounds can be heard. There's nothing actually out here, like a warp or star, just a chill area to hang out in. That's kinda neat. One of the side doorways also leads to a level, so there is an actual reason to come here other than just for travel reasons. I like it a lot. Essentially an upgrade over Balcony, though Balcony's vibe and aesthetic is a bit more unique, so you can decide which one you like more. 54. Peaceful Grounds. Another one of the few outdoor areas that doesn't include levels, of course. This one serves the same purpose as most others, being a gateway area between a few important areas, being the shower room, parallel lobby, and fabricated courtyard. This being the only way to actually get to the fabricated areas, so it's necessary if you want to see them all. The most notable thing in this area is the green star that can be found, all the way at the top of the castle. This one is definitely the hardest to grab in the game, requiring plenty of precise jumps, but it's nice that it has some challenge, as pretty much every other green star is free to grab once you find its location. A big well is found here too, that unfortunately just kills you and sends you back to Pluxel Lobby when entered, though I heard it's actually going to warp you to other wells in the next unabandoned version, so that's pretty cool. Other than that, the things I've talked about with this area are pretty much what the name suggests. Peaceful place that's a little break from the constant claustrophobia from the castles, and does what these outdoor areas do well. 53. Underground hallways. Pretty much a direct opposite of the area I just talked about, instead being a cramped maze of hallways with no music at all, and really nothing to find whatsoever. And that sorta makes sense. This area is meant to be where the AI was first created, due to the area's name also being known as Enhancer Creation, the enhancer being the AI themselves. The hallways are also directly connected to 2 other weird and empty areas, being Eerie Sewer and the previously mentioned Goomba Garden, another area I theorized to be a super early creation of the AI. The lack of music and simple textures just make this area really weird to explore. The only things of note here are the few cracks in the walls, I guess, but otherwise it's just a playground for Mario movement. This area is interesting enough to go quite high on the list for me. 52. Above the Clouds. Probably the best area visually in the entire game, at least when it comes to lobbies. Walking across the rainbow with giant mountains and stars surrounding you is just so cool. It really only lasts for like 30 seconds before entering one of the spires into unfortunately a much weaker area. I don't know, this area is just so sick, but it's not really used for much and doesn't last long. And unlike most other outdoor areas, it's not really useful for getting around, due to it being so segmented from other lobbies, just taking you to Dream Castle. But I have to put it this high just for looking awesome. 51. Bowser's Maze. This area shares a good amount of similarities to underground passageways, but it's a lot less weird and empty, and more in line with what I'd actually expect to see in a Mario game. It's a maze of brick walls, like before, but also includes several Bowser paintings around, along with having the Big Boo's Haunt music. The most interesting part is at the end of the maze you'll be met with a massive void leading to a pipe, and at first it doesn't actually look that far away, till you try going towards it where the true distance really sets in. Nothing but the black void and a single pipe really adds tension when approaching it to see where it will lead to. Though the pipe actually just takes you to the sewer system, an area that seems quite underwhelming but is also where most players will meet the shadowy figure. The area is also connected to Plexel Lobby, a very common area as I mentioned before. This might be a lot of players' first spooky-ish area they find, and I like it a lot for what it does. 50. Clockway Internals. Honestly, I've always liked this area a good amount, even though it can be quite forgettable. Anyways, this area is sort of inspired by Breaking the Barrier with a few more added segments. The lobby is really only segmented into 3 parts, with the main room, a really long hallway, and a junction room with 3 doors. The music here is also a pretty unique remix of the file select screen, only being used here and in Crumbling Castle. I think why I remember and like this area so much is how I always used to take a super long path to get to Bowser's domain, and traversing this area was always a part of it, before I knew much faster ways to get around. I'd always go to this area to get to Polygonal Chaos and so on. And I don't know, the music and the visuals, it just has a weird vibe. Even though it's ironically the least visually distinct, only using the red carpet, checkered floor, and brick walls that are used everywhere in Base 64. The name is also interesting mentioning clocks. Clocks and time seem to be a pretty important theme in B33, notably with the frequent clock paintings scattered around the plexus, and how time works with the day and night cycle, and how all the clocks in games seem to have no hands to even tell the time. Bias aside, it's still quite a useful area for getting around, and having plenty of warps to other areas, but I don't know, I just really like this one. 49. 4th Floor Final, and 48. 4th Floor Final Corrupted. These areas are essentially the exact same, the only difference being 4th Floor Corrupted is during nighttime, and an extra pipe can be found, taking you to the AI Underground. This is another area that's from Classified. This area's layout is kinda like the normal 4th floor, being a hallway with some branching rooms. These rooms contain items such as cake, a working oven, strange altar, and a pipe. This area is the closest thing to an area that has working kitchen appliances, so maybe it could be lived in. You know, one day I gotta make one of those how long can you survive in X game videos, but for B33. Though I think that would take like 50 years off my life to create. Anyways, visually the lobby is quite nice and has a few notable aspects. Firstly is the mini toad statue that can be found. Where walking near it will silence the music and text will appear on screen, saying to find the core. The text being from Stanley themselves. It's sort of a hint that the core is nearby, which it is, as looking up in this area takes you to the corrupted version, which contains the core. Behind the staircase where you spawn is walled off, and is mentioned to be an incomplete area. One of the few that Stanley forgot to finish, I guess. There's unfortunately no levels or stars here, so there's no reason to come here for completion, but it's still quite cool nonetheless, and exploring more classified areas is always fun. 47. Vanilla Castle Grounds. Despite the name, Vanilla Castle Grounds kinda mixes both the beta version and modern version of the Castle Grounds, most notably with the backyard that's only present in the beta form, but also has the modern castle along with most of the castle being the same scale as the modern version. The main difference as well is the foggy sky that this version has. It gives the grounds a much different feel, but one that is quite peaceful. The castle mode is drained here as well, allowing you to enter the metal door inside, which takes you to Challenge Lobby. You're also able to use the cannon here to access the roof like in the original, but a door can actually be found here taking you to the Painting Museum, which honestly kind of fits structurally, due to the Painting Museum being a large cylindrical lobby, fitting with the exterior. That's pretty neat. Anyways, that's about it here. It's sort of a strange mix between both beta and modern versions of the Castle Grounds, and I think that's pretty cool. 46. Toad Lobby. This area is found at the very back of the Castle Grounds by entering the double door. It yet again shares a similar 4-door structure, but a bit more unique, as the lobby is designed a lot like a temple of sorts, all leading up to a large golden toad statue with a beam of light shining down on it. Once you enter, instead, going left or right will take you to 2 pipes along with the mentioned doors, so this lobby is pretty useful for getting around. The music here is pretty good as well, being a more regal rendition of the Peach's Castle theme. You can get to both Solar and Stellar Tower from here, along with several key lobbies like Plexel Basement and Genesis Basement, so the lobby is pretty useful. The heavy use of white and gold here has a similar theme to Balcony, but instead themed around Toad. It's pretty cool, and a really original idea made for B33. 45. Basement Maze. This is the area I mentioned being pretty much a direct upgrade to Uncanny Basement. Basement Maze is way larger and actually has a lot to offer when it comes to having shit to find. This area being so big, it has tons of warps to other areas, most notably Mr. I's basement being one of the only ways to get there, Floor 4B, Castle Depths, and several others. A hidden star can be found here locked away in a room full of item boxes, and the level Cave Dungeon is found here too. A pretty solid one I talked about in the level ranking. There's some other weird oddities here too, like a random brick wall painting that would probably hurt to jump in, and the cave dungeon painting being kinda buggy, where it sometimes just disappears entirely. The main downside here is the visuals. It's literally just the basement from Base 64, but bigger, so it's pretty uninteresting. But the occasional paintings that are found down here serve as some landmarks. 44. Waterfall. One of the weirdest areas in the game. Taken from a ROM hack known as Project Waterfall. This ROM hack, at the time of this video being made, never released. It's a weird little enclosure outside Mario and Luigi's house, with a large waterfall that fills the surrounding moat, along with some empty houses and a weird structure in the center. One of these houses is walled off by a brick wall, while the other one does have a door, but it's strangely locked. Who could have these houses belonged to? The theming is similar to other outdoor areas, but it's a lot less peaceful, instead feeling a lot more empty and desolate. And I think that mainly has to do with the empty houses and total isolation this area has from the Plexus, for the most part. You can actually find a warp inside the waterfall that takes you to Castle Depths, a far from pleasant area. You can actually get here by flying or triple jumping up the waterfall in castle grounds too. Something I actually didn't know or ever use, but it's probably a really fast way to get to floor 4B. This area is strange, being taken from an unfinished hack and just being weird and empty. But I guess being weird and empty is B33's thing for the most part. 43. Royal Lobby. This lobby is actually really small, basically a single room. But for what it lacks in size, it makes up for in depth. The main room kind of parallels the design of Vanilla Lobby, but a lot more detailed and cool looking. The two doors at the bottom both lead to levels, along with a section over to the right, leading to a pipe and a few more levels. So there's actually a good amount of content here. The music is entirely unique, being a remix of the ending theme from Base 64. It gives this area a cool vibe that's not shared with any other area. Anyways, going left you can find a miniature replica of Peach's castle that you can actually enter that takes you to Vanilla Castle grounds, and it's probably the easiest way to get there. This area also has the second best level in B33, in my opinion. Downtown City. It probably has my favorite painting too, it looks really cool. I don't know, the windows on the houses kind of look like screaming souls in a way, which would fit the level really well. I love the color scheme of this lobby too. The dark blue walls from 3rd floor beta really fit well with the pillars and checkerboard floor. It feels really fancy, fitting with the lobby's name. This one's really great. 42. Castle Bathroom. For being the castle's main and seemingly only bathroom, there seems to be no toilets present. So sucks to suck if you want to visit the Plexus and have to take a shit. Anyways, this area is like, just really funny. As I mentioned before, you can mainly enter this area by killing yourself, where you exit via showerhead and find a bunch of toads showering, where they kindly tell you to piss off when talking to them. There being pictures of Bowser here is really funny. Like, why is he fucking here? There is a level here though, so there is a reason to come here other than this area just being goofy. But I think this area being goofy makes it stand out a lot. Like, yeah, why not just throw a random bathroom in some random spot in the Plexus? Can't wait for Castle Attic to be added in A3. Though, not gonna lie, that'd be kind of cool area. I hope Castle Bathroom fan in my comment section is appeased with this placement.
Number 41. Clock Hall. Now this area for me is super memorable. I remember finding it initially before having the Vanish Cap unlocked, and really liking the vibe and wanting to get the Vanish Cap to go through the mirror here, to reach whatever mystery was behind it. It took me ages to find this lobby again once I got the Vanish Cap, and trying to find it again was super fun. Unfortunately, what was on the other side was just relatively underwhelming, just being Outer Strip, an area that I'd already previously found. But still, it was about the journey, not the destination. Even without my little story, the area is pretty cool. It's one of the only outside areas that takes place at night, not counting the main castle grounds, where you walk along a bridge with a big lake around you and another massive peach painting on the other side staring at you. Inside the lake is really nothing but debris and some greenery, but it's still cool anyway. You can actually enter this peach painting by using the Vanish Cap here. I talked a bit about this area and what I liked about it in the iceberg, but I'll mention it a bit here. The music here combined with the other elements I talked about just makes this area pretty unique. And it being at night using the somewhat creepy Big Boo's Haunt skybox just makes this area feel a bit more sinister than it is. But most of my enjoyment comes from my own personal experience with it. The room you can enter here also looks pretty cool with all the fog covering the ground too. And I like how this area is kind of the opposite of Sunny Balcony. The balcony being on the left with a bright sky and upbeat music,
while Clock Hall is on the left at night, a lot more calm and eerie. Most likely not intentional, but I like making my own little world building when I can. 40. Eerie Sewer. This area, even ignoring the main aspect, is able to just make the basement textures and theming pretty creepy. I think the lack of music entirely, along with the bit of water on the ground, help with all that. It makes it so you can only really hear the constant splashing of water while walking. But of course, the main appeal of this area is the jump scare. Probably B33's most iconic horror event, and it's the one I see the most on thumbnails. The jump scare has a lot of build-up where you'll just walk through dozens of doors while toads appear, periodically telling you to walk quietly as the visuals get more and more distorted. Until, well... Though another area uses the same jump scare as well, and I think it executes it even better.
39. Sunny Balcony. Pretty much a parallel to Clock Hall as I explained before. I really like this area a lot. The upbeat music along with just being outside once again is cool. This area seems to be on the left side of the plexus, while Clock Hall is on the right. I mean, sort of none of these areas actually make any sense structurally whatsoever, but still. This area is one that was included on my trip to Bowser's Domain, so I always frequented here. Not a ton to say about this one. I enjoy it for pretty much the exact same reasons as the other outdoor areas. It's just a really nice vibe. 38. Castle Garden. I like what this area tries to do a lot. When first entering it, you'll get a little jingle, usually the same one you'd get for doing something like freeing the Chain Chomp of a bomb battlefield. And from the looks of it, this area looks like the possible exit of the castle. You're surrounded by brick walls, and the entire castle can be seen behind you. All that's left is to enter the door and you can escape, but you quickly realize it's a trap, as you're stuck in a black void where a group of eels come and kill you, with no way of escape. I like how the game kinda tricks you like that. Putting a door there would incentivize most players to check it out, especially since it looks like you can kinda just leave. But sorry Luigi, looks like you're stuck here for a little bit longer. Even ignoring the little jump scare, this area is still quite cool looking. The view of the castle looks nice, and Toad's rec room and a pipe leading to the hedge maze are also here. So there are actual reasons to come here for stars and such. But the fake-out exit is obviously the highlight of this area. 37. Internal Sewer System. Now an area with that name doesn't sound too interesting, but it's a pretty cool one. I think the standout aspect of this area is the music. It's a pretty funky remix of the Underground theme. And it's funny how both the Underground theme is sampled in a track like this and Dry Town. Two tracks that are polar opposites when it comes to tone. The sewer system is for the most part another gateway area, but does have a level of its own. An actual really cool thing I didn't realize till looking on the wiki is you can actually enter this lobby via a level, being the city, by swimming through a grate in the moat. Very few levels actually have warps that take you back to the castle, except for grabbing the stars obviously. The one level it does have though is not really unique to this area, as it's accessible via the level fire bubble. This area is still quite useful for getting around the plexus. The dark brown rusted walls and metallic theming here is quite unique for a hub area, and the general layout being far more cramped makes it stand out too. But the music here is honestly what I remember it most by though. I wish the abundance of pipes used in the older versions of this area were still in this version, as it would add even more to the sewer vibe. 36. The Floating Hotel. This area has gone through quite a few changes over B33's version history, but I think I like the newest one the most. This area mixes both of the outdoor and indoor aspects of a lobby, starting you on what is most likely the hotel's courtyard. The lighting here is a bit different to most outdoor areas taking place during sundown, so it adds that nice orange hue over everything. The actual interior of the hotel is a bit strange. It's a large maze-like room with some silver stars, until turning into a single hallway with dozens of doors, most likely the rooms of this hotel, all that kill you, well except for one. One of these areas will have a butterfly outside of it, hinting that something else is inside. You can actually find a green star. Another one of the game's best green stars, as it's pretty well hidden. Going right instead will take you to an area with a few islands that you can use the wing cap to get to, where you'll find the final silver star. This area is pretty weird, but in a good way. Just a random hotel in the middle of the sky is a pretty goofy concept for B33, and like most of the doors killing you makes it pretty memorable too. I mostly like it for the sunset vibe though. Even the interior sections have that warm orange tint that not many areas have. It's a pretty great one. 35 to 29. Beginnings, Castle Grounds Ending, Monochrome Castle Grounds, Monochrome Lobby, World of Dreams, and Star Road. These 6 areas all being next to each other may be odd, but I find they really all accomplish the same goal, and are all placed back to back in game as well. These areas are kind of the game's post-game areas in a way, as you first find them by defeating Bowser in the Eternal Fort, where you're sent to Beginnings, a weird checkerboard area in the sky, with a sign asking you about where Luigi is, but that's what it's implied to mean. Then you get sent to Castle Grounds Ending, and this is where the music kicks in. The vibe this area and the preceding areas give off is kind of like a you won but at what cost feeling. You beat the game and defeated Bowser, but you don't really win. The castle grounds are dark and empty. Going inside will have Peach appear as well, with a ghost of her telling you that the power stars are restored, where you're then sent to monochrome grounds. The music between all these areas is the same as well. The monochrome grounds are an even more empty and depressing version of the grounds, the beta version this time. A sign at the entrance is telling you to leave, along with the howling of wind. None of the warps here work at all either. You keep going and going deeper into these areas, but there's nothing to be found. You keep pressing on, and eventually you'll reach Star Road, the post-game area, where you can play 5 bonus levels, and the same area even gets a special color scheme when you become a super player by gathering all 460 stars. But you don't actually leave. Once you reach this area in Star Road, you can only escape by warping back to where you started in the beta lobbies. Even the trek to all these areas gives us the vibe that it's the end. You keep pushing forward, even the warps to get here are at the top of the stairs where you'd fight Bowser, but it's not really the end. You can get to these areas with hardly any stars, but it's kinda like a fuck you in a way. You don't really get the satisfaction of winning. No ending credits or cutscene, you kinda just stop being able to go forward anymore. Even this game's good ending, where you gather all the power stars and complete everything, is all meaningless in the end. The AI is still powered, forced to create, and poor Mario and Luigi are stuck roaming around, until they find like 20 ways to die drowning, or paranormal occurrences, or burning to death, you know the sort. But yeah, I think all these areas kind of serve as one little story to tell, and they're all ranked together for that reason. I can't really pick and choose where each one would go, but overall, they do what they're most likely trying to do well, and I like them a lot. Anyways, back to the normal ranking. 28, Peach's floor, and 27, Bowser's floor. Both these lobbies kind of serve as the final lobbies in a way. They lead to the final areas in the game chronologically. You can actually get to these areas anytime you want at any point. These areas are very similar with a few key differences. Mainly, Bowser's floor has an entire exterior section that is walled off in Peach's floor. Bowser's floor also contains 2 levels, one of those being Bomb Village, one of the best ones in B33, so it takes the edge. Though I like the vibe at Peach's floor a lot too, with the weird cracks in the walls along with the large Toad statue. I like how large both these areas are, and the build-up is quite nice if you enter them the normal way, as you're forced to walk down long hallways before you reach the floor proper. The giant Peach painting with a large prohibition sign under is a bit ominous too. The warp leading to Peaceful Sewer Maze is one of the weirdest in this game as well. Not being a painting or a typical warp, instead of just some random ravine outside. Most people might not expect this to actually be a level, and I like how well hidden it is, even though the level itself doesn't really offer much. These areas are really well made, and fit well for being the final lobbies of the Plexus. 26. Crumbling Castle. This lobby seems to be a part of the Plexus that has begun falling apart for unknown reasons. When entering the lobby, the actual stability of this area is a lot different throughout, as some rooms are relatively normal with a few pieces of debris lying around, while some other rooms are entirely destroyed with large holes in the walls. The music here is shared with Clockwork internals, and it's pretty cool and fits the area, being kinda mysterious and strange. There's a single green star here behind one of the broken walls with a door lying on the ground that can actually be entered. I theorized in the iceberg video that perhaps Bowser is the reason for the castle being like this, due to a lot of the holes in the walls being about the size of him, and that perhaps he was trying to break more of the castle in part of his takeover. But I talked a lot more about that in the iceberg. The visuals here are what you would expect, pretty much the same as the vanilla castle, but obviously falling apart. It's another solid gateway area too, but it's pretty easy to get lost in, due to no particular set pieces of note. But I don't know, I really like this area. The crumbling theme is really unique, only kind of being shared with floor 2B in some sections, which honestly fits as these lobbies are directly connected. 25. Plexel Hallway. I think this lobby is the most overall good lobby so far. It kinda has a bit of everything. Decently sized, a solid amount of levels, and a few set pieces to talk about as well. Now the only thing I think is weird about this area is the name. Not gonna lie, I feel like this area is a lot more like Bowser's Castle than the actual Bowser's Castle lobby. The dark color scheme, fire, and just slightly darker vibe really feels a lot more like Bowser's Castle than the weird orange and red Bowser's Castle we have. There's a solid amount of levels here, some notable ones being Cave City and Grim Green Forest, some of the best ones. The little courtyard section is a nice touch too, with a pretty well hidden star. And I like the library section too, and the horror vent that's found here. It's one of the weirder ones too, being inside of a Bowser painting, where you walk across an ominous bridge to the shadowy figure, now taking on the form of Bowser instead of Luigi. Strangely, you also get sent to this lobby when defeating Bowser in the sky. It's a pretty weird location to get warped to, as most other areas just warp you outside of them when you grab a star. As I said before, this lobby kinda just has everything and no real flaws. A star, good levels, a nice design, and a horror event. What else do you really need? I guess the actual layout is not crazy unique, with the hallway and branching doors layout being pretty frequent, but it's not really a real criticism, as this area is pretty much the first of its kind, being in the earliest version of B33, and I can see why it stuck around for so long. Very solid. 24. Genesis Basement. As the name suggests, this lobby comes from the Mario Classified episode Genesis, where one of the developers is showing off a new area, the same area where the AI first gets activated. The recreation is almost one-for-one accurate. Even the way of entry through the moat is the same. This lobby is super large, and by far one of the largest of the 4-door gateway room lobbies. Though with all this size, it only has 2 levels, being Chroma Tundra and Flower Fields. One of them is my personal favorites, being Chroma Tundra. This lobby was actually a decent bit worse before 1.0, due to warps to both Floor 4B and Castle Depths not being present. So a lot of the hallways instead just led to nothing at all. The massive courtyard section looks really nice, probably my favorite of all the courtyards in game. The pipe to the infamous yellow switch can be found here as well, the same switch that activated Stanley in Classified. But in B33, it will mess around with all the game's personalization values, so I wouldn't recommend messing with it. With how big this area is, it's unfortunately quite empty, with only 2 levels, but the various branching points to other areas still make it worthwhile to come to. And I don't know, the super large lobbies always feel a lot more grand. Ones like this, Floor 2B, and Polygonal Chaos. They make you feel so small in comparison, and are really fun to explore. I think a few more levels here would get me to put Genesis Basement a decent bit higher, but I still like this lobby a lot. 23. Personalization Chamber. By looking into the ceiling in a few lobbies, you get sent here. The first room being pitch black, only containing a long red carpet and a few windows, allowing a bit of light in the area. The second room is an eerily long hallway that, once reaching the end of, cannot be backtracked, as it constantly loops. The final room contains the painting itself. The lack of music at all in here makes this area really creepy. Entering the second room and just seeing a super long hallway just feels so unnatural. The painting itself can take you to 5 different areas. Some of these areas are accessible in different ways, while others are only accessible via the painting. These areas include Toad's Hedge Maze, Illusionary Dark Labyrinth, Flesh Mountain, AI Headquarters, and Mr. Eye's Maze. Toad's Maze being really the only positive area here. The sign outside mentions this painting being able to sense the thoughts of the observer, to personally craft you an experience of your most desired dreams or inhuman nightmares. But unfortunately, due to the limited capabilities of N64 hardware, you're stuck with these 5 areas. Though it's quite trippy when you enter this painting multiple times and just end up in different places. The area has no origins either, it's just a really strange inclusion, and I like it. The first 2 rooms do a really good job at being creepy without really doing much. I think that just shows how Mario 64 at its core, when stripped of all the elements that make it a normal game, is just kinda weird and eerie. No NPCs, no background music, just empty halls and only the sound of footsteps and the creaking of doors. It's a feeling no other game can really replicate. A great area. 22. Warped Internal Garden. Another outdoor garden area. This one coming from Sm64 Warped Worlds, a hack I talked about in my last video. It's really good, play it. Now, unlike the other outside areas, this one doesn't really feel as peaceful or upbeat. First of all, you're still surrounded by castle on all 4 sides, so even though you're outside, you still kind of feel trapped. And there's a few weird warps here, mainly 2 warps to floor 4B, being one inside one of the windows, a warp that I feel like 99% of players would not find, and I didn't even know this one existed. And another one that gets you warped there by falling down a pit that looks like it would kill you. And finally, you may notice a little door up above. A door that in Warped Worlds takes you to a pretty cool Bomb Battlefield retake. Well, in B33 you're getting sent to a... not that. But I'll talk more about that area later. Due to being directly connected to that area, along with being a lot more cramped than the outdoor areas, this gives off a much different feeling. And it's one of my favorites for that reason. Still a useful area for getting around as well, due to the decent amount of warps included. 21. Stellar Tower. This is the nighttime equivalent of Solar Tower, and about like 70 spots higher. Unlike Solar Tower, this area is not just the very top, instead being the entire tower with an elevator to boot. The view from the outside looks really cool, and the tower looks nice. Each floor has a different level, and all 3 of them are like top 50 levels in my opinion. The theming of this area and how you traverse it is really unique. Like no other area in the game is this vertically based, save for maybe like Painting Museum. My only issue is I wish the elevator was a bit faster, but otherwise this area is great. The large tower theme kinda reminds me of the Riddle Tower from Thousand Year Door. 20. Castle Grounds. We finally made it to the very first area in B33. This area is a version of the beta Castle Grounds that were originally planned for Super Mario 64, including aspects like the backyard that ended up getting scrapped, but a ton of different warps and such were added here. This area probably has the most warps in B33, other than maybe Plexel Lobby. You have 6 main entrances to part of the castle. It allows for the game to be a lot more open-ended, since you don't have to start in the beta lobbies every single time. You get the freedom to enter whatever part you want, making finding specific areas much easier. A ton of secrets are found here too, like swimming out of bounds takes you to Eel Graveyard, the warps in the moat to the sewer and Genesis basement, the weird void hallway, and even the secret wing cap that lets you go near the Twisted Grounds, and scaling up the waterfall to get near floor 4B. It gives you a ton of options when exploring. Visually, it's pretty iconic too, being the area every B33 player will start at, and it's one of the most recognizable, and it makes it a really good first impression.
19. Toad's Hedge Maze. Another Toad-themed area. Well, not really. The only Toad theming is the massive statue in the name. Otherwise, it's just a large hedge maze. And speaking of that, that's the main aspect that makes this area stand out. The maze is massive, even compared to the maze in like Windy Courtyard. The goal here is to grab the 8 red coins scattered around to spawn a star, that in Unabandoned was a red star. I think the nature of this area makes the star being red make a lot more sense. A lot of the red star choices and locations were much better in Unabandoned compared to 1.0. Anyway, it's quite easy to get lost in this maze, and finding the 8 red coins can be tough, but it's not too bad. I really like how the little section with the toad statue looks. It's by far one of the biggest of these statues, and I'm not sure if it's meant to be a memorial or what. The dark blue sky also fits here well compared to the normal skybox too. I probably would have counted this area as a level if it weren't for the 2-way pipe that takes you back to Castle Garden, but I really like how this big-ass hedge maze is so segmented off from everything else. Makes it feel more mysterious. And the lack of music works here too, and it makes it a lot more peaceful. Great area. 18. Plexel Basement. The final basement on the list, and this one is packed with the most amount of content by far. Visually is kind of all over the place for the most part. The walls are green and look like dark prismarine from Minecraft, with a typical checkerboard floor. But there's also a section with orange walls that mimics the basement section, with Bowser in the fire seat. Another section with red and black checkerboard that looks super similar to Red Twisted Hallway. And finally, a bunch of large hallways with some grate you can walk through using the Vanish Cap. The size and layout makes it really easy to get lost. Even now I can hardly remember the layout of this entire area, and with the size comes a ton of levels too. The quality of them ranges a lot, but some notable ones here include Dry Town and the Metal Cap stage. A standout aspect here is the pseudo-horror event that can happen. When trying to enter a pipe, the entire basement will flood, with there only being 2 ways to escape, which are to enter the wall behind the pipe, taking you to Toad Catacombs, or painting to Dry Town, that only takes you there when flooded. The event is honestly one of the most unexpected. It doesn't really have any build-up at all, it kinda just jump scares you with forced swimming. I like how it parallels the vanilla flooded basement, though here you can actually escape. I kinda wish the visual theme was a bit more cohesive, but honestly, both the other 2 main Plexel areas designs aren't really cohesive either, so it's not too bad. Other than that, this area kinda slaps.
17. Elder Koopa's Library. Another area from Warped Worlds. Libraries and bookshelves are actually weirdly present in B33, and Elder Koopa's Library is the de facto library area. The vibe it gives off is a decent bit different than it does in Warped Worlds. In that game there are several books you can read, along with a lot more decor and being brighter. In B33, and just with the beta art style, it feels a lot more mysterious, like a library that could hold a bunch of secrets and stuff. And in a way, it actually does, as one of the bookshelves is able to be moved, taking you to floor 4B. The library's layout is sort of the same as it is in Warped Worlds, but a few different levels are included. Bedrock Magmas and Spiky Sandland. Pretty solid levels. A faceless toad is also present here, giving you a star. A large library area is a pretty neat concept for a place, and the Elder Koopa is most likely the same one who helped lead Bowser's renovation project in Warped Worlds. Though there's no mention of that character in B33 at all. I wish there were signs/books to read in this area to give it a bit more, but I still really like it as it is. The addition of it being a bit more dark and mysterious gives it its own unique identity in a way, compared to it being a direct port from Warped Worlds. Love this one. 16. 4th Floor Beta. I thought this area's name was Pipe Playrooms for so long, and I'm gonna keep calling it that because it's a way better name than 4th Floor Beta. The Pipe Playrooms has a similar role to the previous area, 3rd Floor Beta, being a hub area that contains primarily beta levels, though the actual layout is way more unique. Being a series of long hallways with multicolored walls with a bunch of pipes all taking you to different levels. The vibe this area gives off is like no other. It by far feels the most like a dream. The rainbow walls and the music that sounds like some weird lullaby, everything about it. Plus this area and the area before it are so segmented from everything else. Once you get here, there's no way out. All the levels here being weird test levels adds to the dreamy vibe too. Levels that seem like they could have existed in some form of beta. This is another area I have bias for. Being one of the first I ever found, and I convinced myself didn't exist because I could never find it again, makes it one of the most memorable for me. The levels here are some of the worst, unfortunately, due to their super simplistic nature, but the actual lobby itself is one of my favorites. It's just so weird. 15. Ruins in the Blood Lake. Definitely the area with the most ominous name. This area is what the title suggests, is the ruins of Peach's castle in a blood lake, though the blood lake part is a bit inaccurate, as the lake is just regular water. The red tint does make it look red from afar, though. Speaking of the red tint, it's super pronounced in this area, causing basically the entire area to be red, most notably the massive peach paintings that stare down upon you. Now, what this area actually is and represents is unknown, but as I mentioned before in the Haunted Castle Ground section, I think it's meant to be kinda like the bad ending. Entering the pipe here takes you to Haunted Castle Grounds, where you're just stuck there getting taunted by music until you restart in the beta lobbies. The Blood Lake really exemplifies that, showing the entire castle in ruin, and this area parallels the World of Dreams a lot too. Both these areas kind of show the castle in a ruined state, but World of Dreams instead has birds chirping and an overall peaceful vibe. Now this area is debatably one of the coolest looking areas in the game. How everything is composed, the depressing remix of the castle theme, and the red tint I mentioned, it all gives off the feeling that you lost. The only real issues here are, well, it's quite small, and obviously no levels or stars are here either, but it serves its purpose perfectly, and it's a great segue to Haunted Castle Grounds after. I could honestly see this being someone's favorite, or at least like top 5 area. 14. Pluxel Upstairs. Now Pluxel Upstairs is an area that significance can really change depending on what version of B33 you're playing, or if you've encountered any yellow switch shenanigans. In older versions, Pluxel Upstairs was the area you would get sent to every single time you gathered a star in a level you didn't enter via painting. Now that is a ton of stars, so you would get super familiar with this area, but hitting the yellow switch can sometimes bring back this effect in newer versions. Now luckily this area is quite large and diverse, so getting sent here a lot wouldn't get tiring too quickly. The area splits off mainly into 2 ways, either going left or right, while forward only contains a level and a stupid warp to Crimson Courtyard nobody ever uses. Some of the game's oldest and most iconic levels are found here, like Dry Town and Pleasant Falls, but there are a good handful of other levels here too. I played Unabandoned originally, so I always got sent to this area and became quite fond of it. It's pretty basic, but it does its job well. It's unique enough to still be quite good in its own way, but in newer versions this area may seem a lot more generic, as you really don't end up here much unless you go to your way to do so. This area is kinda like Pluxel Hallway. It has a good bit of everything. Good visuals, pretty great levels, and enough pathway diversions to stay fresh. I find myself always coming here as it's a great way to get to specific lobbies, but I could see this area being quite low for a newer player. 13. Outer Strip. This is my favorite outdoor gateway area. I can't really describe why it's my favorite, it's just like a chill-ass place. It's the biggest by a lot, and it stands out in that regard. I don't know, I just like how this area is designed. I think the music really helps it too. It's the same music that's present in Sunny Courtyard. And like I said before, it's so positive. This hub is also one of the most simple to traverse, as the branching paths are very straightforward compared to most others. This ranking's by far the most biased, but I just love the area and the vibe of this area so much. 12. Greenhouse Framework, and 11. Internal Garden. Both of these areas' general theme and vibe are quite similar, and they're directly connected, so I'm ranking them together. Greenhouse Framework is a lot more similar to something like Outer Strip, the positive music along with being another gateway-like area. The greenhouse, though, is a lot more visually distinct and interesting layout-wise. Obviously, this area is meant to be a greenhouse, so plenty of flower patches are included. A few small balcony sections are here, and some toad statues. Perhaps the garden is owned by them. A lot of barred windows sections are present, letting you look out into the void. This area is also one of the few interior areas that's actually impacted by the day-night cycle, as at night the music is a lot more calm and it's a bit darker. Anyways, Internal Garden is very similar, but a lot more boxed in. The music is a lot more chill, and it's a bit darker as well. But there are a few more things included here. Firstly, an actual level being present here, Bomb Tower, and most interestingly, the Luigi painting. At some point you'll find a large glass wall with Luigi on the other side. Grabbing a vanish cap and passing through, you can enter the door that's behind the glass, where you'll enter a weird empty room with nothing but an ominous looking Luigi painting. A painting that was inspired from Breaking the Barrier, though it's framed in a way that's a lot more ominous here, with the darkness covering most of his face. Jumping inside will swap you to Luigi, if you're not playing him previously, and warp you to the Breaking the Barrier area. I really like both of these places. The garden vibe is just really cool, especially when coming right from Basement Maze, how I found these areas. It's a nice contrast, just finding a massive garden hidden in the basement. Some of the best areas, really useful for traversal, and they at least have a level, so there is a reason to come here. Number 10. Bowser's Domain. Another one of B33's largest areas, and the lobby is kind of segmented in a way where I always thought it was two separate areas at first. The area is split between two sections, the sewer-like maze with tons of cracks in the walls along with the warp to drip-drop depths, and a section that looks a lot like Polygonal Chaos with its somewhat random texture choice. As the lobby's name suggests, this part of the plexus seems to belong to Bowser. Any sort of evidence that this is his domain is his bed you can find placed all the way down a bit bordering unsettling maze. I'm gonna be real, I don't know what Bowser was thinking having his bedroom down a massive pit. That's like if you set up your bed at the bottom of a well. I don't know, maybe he has a vision. Now this lobby has a lot of cool sections that make it stand out to me. Mainly is the really cool prison area. It's kind of weird how Bowser has two separate prisons, but I guess it kind of makes sense considering how big the plexus is. Prison has a ghostly peach apparition if you come here at night, along with a toad who gives you a star, and where you can find the escape route. I really like the main room and how massive it is. It really reminds me of the scale that an area like Polygonal Chaos has. You also find a pipe off to the side that takes you to lobby.z64. I'm kind of neglecting the weird maze section. There's not a ton to talk about there. It contains a level, but for the most part I never really find myself going down there intentionally. But it's still pretty decent for traversal. An amazing area, just making it into top 10. Number 9, Mr. I's Maze, and number 8, Mr. I's Basement. Another pair of areas here, and I think these two are some of the most creative. I'll talk about the basement first because I think it makes more sense chronologically. Mr. I's Basement is quite the rare area, kind in the same vein as something like the Fabricated areas, and I think it was one of the very last areas I've ever found. A random door in basement maze will send you here. You'll notice a few things when entering. The entire floor is a red carpet along with the dark prismarine walls, and the color contrast of the two makes the area pretty unique. There is no music here at all as well, making it a bit more eerie. Not even any ambient sound can be heard. You also cannot leave this area, as trying to go back will just warp you to the starting room. Now let's talk about the Mr. I's here. They don't function at all like the normal Mr. I enemies, instead just sitting still creepily until approached, where they'll jump out at you instantly killing you. A pretty effective jump scare, not gonna lie. The area's layout is really confusing, with a bunch of useless side rooms and doors that just take you back to the start. It's really easy to get lost and confused in this area. The main way to progress is just going forward, not getting distracted by all the side rooms, where you'll get sent to Mr. I's maze. There's another thing to talk about here too. You might find a star here to grab, but it's a trick, as grabbing it will instead warp you into a massive cage, where a massive Mr. I will slowly rise up before insta-killing you. This is one of my favorite horror events, as it's super unique. Most of the horror events, they either involve Stanley, the shadowy figure, or have a lot of build-up, but this one is really well hidden and pretty creepy, honestly. Now Mr. I's maze is pretty similar, but actually has a star to grab. Visually it's a bit more, I guess, typically scary, super dark with the Big Boo's haunt music present. The same dark walls are present, along with a strange blue carpet that's rarely ever seen. What's weird here are the cracks in the walls with strange TV static. This is never actually seen anywhere else in game, for at least that I know of, and it's really weird. Now this area forces you to interact with the giant eyes by baiting them away to reveal secrets that will spawn a star, though some of these eyes are still fake and will insta-kill you before you can run away. Even though this area has a star, I like Mr. I's basement a bit better. I just like the aesthetic a bit more, along with it having the horror event that makes it a bit higher for me. But I love both these areas, and they stand out a lot for me due to kind of being the very last spooky areas I ever found, and at least I went out on a bang. Number 7. Castle Depths. This is one of the newest B33 areas, added in 1.0.2, and it's by far one of the coolest. Castle Depths' main purpose was to replace most of the game's shame areas. Weird areas that were kinda just there to clown on Unabandoned and really just made no sense to like 90% of the players who don't know or care about the drama. Castle Depths though is an amazing replacement. Castle Depths appears to be a weird forgotten area of the castle, with the only enemies residing here being Boo's, Mr. I's, and a piano. The area has 2 floors as well, each with a strange moon monument. Now the music here is original to this area and was actually made a good bit before the area got added, and it's really great. It really fits the vibe of this area being a creepy old forgotten section of the castle. The layout here is quite complex, being really large overall. All the ways to enter this area are really out of the way and weird, such as a random pipe in the basement maze, entering the tunnel and waterfall, one of the many doors in floor 4B. It gives the impression that this area was meant to sort of be sealed off and never meant to be found. I think my favorite section is the hallway with a ton of Bowser paintings. But these paintings are edited in a way to make Bowser's smile just a tiny bit larger. It's so small that it's not really noticeable, but it's a really creepy change when you actually realize. It's not a big enough change like the Bowser paintings in Unsettling Maze, but it's so small it just makes you wonder why they were changed. I also talked about this painting way back in Toad's Rec Room. I still have no idea why it's in that area. Now this area would be perfect and arguably number 1, but it has no levels at all. And I feel like it's such missed potential for this area. The area is huge and would be perfect for some weird creepy levels to be down here. But in a way I understand. This area of the castle seems to be long forgotten, so there being absolutely nothing here kind of fits. Perhaps there used to be paintings before they got removed or destroyed or something. And that makes me wonder, what happened to this section of the castle to make it forgotten? Maybe it's a super old basement before the classic basement got added. I'd like to think in-universe, maybe this was an old basement prototype designed by Nintendo before being thrown away. Maybe for being a bit too creepy, and Stanley pieced it back together to make this area. Now that's just some fun in-universe theorizing though, as obviously Nintendo didn't make this area and like 99% of the areas in B33. I'm gonna be a bit sad to see this area gone in A3 since it's removing all of 1.0's areas, but this is still one of the best. Number 6, Nebula Lobby. Now onto the direct opposite tonally from Castle Depths. This lobby is also incredibly unique, with brown shiny bricks on the floor with a super iconic night sky wall pattern. Now unlike Castle Depths, this area's main feature is the amount of levels it does contain, and it has a ton of great ones, including some bangers like Sky High Pipelands and Blazing Bullet Factory. But overall, this area has some of the most levels a lobby could ask for, making coming here essential to grabbing a ton of stars. Not only that, this area also serves as a great gateway area as well, leading to a ton of different areas in the Plexus. This lobby kind of feels the most normal in a way. It gives me the same feeling as like most of the outdoor areas where I'm not really worried that I'm going to find anything creepy here. It's really ironic as you can find a horror event here, being the shadowy figure. I mean, I say one horror event, but you could also find your way into that damn basement again. Well, it's really segmented in a way where you won't really accidentally find yourself stumbling upon it. Speaking of swimming, there's also a little section that's kind of segmented off that parallels the design of floor 2B and 3B, having yellow walls and contains even more areas. I always thought this was its own area at first, not realizing it's technically connected to Nebula Lobby. Some of the highlights of this area include stuff like the Fly Guy boss fight, the cool room with a ton of windows that hides a green star. This area pretty much has everything, and I don't have a single complaint. It's pretty much perfect. I just like the next few areas even more. Number 5. Plexel Lobby. Finally made it to the B33 lobby. This is probably the first area you think of other than maybe the beta lobbies when thinking about B33. This area is sort of like the lifeblood of the Plexus, containing the most warps to any area in the game, including levels and parts of the castle. You can kinda get everywhere from here. Now this is an area that, again, was actually even more important in older versions like Plexel Upstairs, as dying in any non-painting level would respawn you here. And I think that's less of an issue than in Plexel Upstairs, since this area just has so many warps, you are bound to find your way back, or just find entirely new areas. Even in modern versions, dying anywhere in the castle will send you back here. To be honest, old versions of B33 and newer versions actually play a lot differently. Since in older versions you were constantly getting sent back here in Plexel Upstairs, they were always used as starting points and you would kind of branch out from each of them. Maybe exploring a few areas, dying, and then trying another branch. But in newer versions, the exploration is a lot more free flow, as you aren't constantly getting sent here. One of my buddies somehow found Unsettling Maze before both Plexel Lobby and Plexel Upstairs. I wasn't able to find Unsettling Maze till I had well over 100 stars. In a way, the older versions kinda kept the exploration feeling way longer. Because of the constant setbacks, it made it so it took a lot longer to find all the game's areas. I can see how the newer versions are better, and getting 100% on the older version sounds like a nightmare, but in a way, I enjoyed the older branch-like exploration a lot more, as it kept me finding new areas a bit slower, and I don't think I found them all till a bit over 200 stars. Anyways, I kinda got sidetracked. Back to Plexel Lobby. Its visual identity is most identifiable by the red fog that covers the entire lobby. It makes it super recognizable, so you always kinda know when you're here, along with the blue, white, and orange walls. It's hard to talk about everything here because there are so many warps. The Plexel Lobby is segmented mostly into 2 rooms. The first one being small and spherical, but contains about like a dozen doors, all taking you to who knows where. And the second room that's a lot more open, but still contains a ton of warps. But they're a bit more spread out than the first room. Honestly, you'll probably never find yourself getting to this area by any normal means. You pretty much leave and only return by dying. It's kind of funny in a way. I'll talk about the highlight sections. The massive staircase room that leads to Floating Hotel looks pretty cool. I like the room that preludes the funhouse with the weird piano, and the massive mirror room that has 2 doors that just kill you. These doors are actually pretty useful for getting negative lives. I can't talk about everything because there's just so much here, but I think it's really important for this area to exist. You kinda need an area that players are constantly gonna see and return to be diverse, and Plexel Lobby executes it perfectly. Arguably the most important area in B33. Number 4. Unsettling Maze. Unsettling Maze is my second favorite area in B33. It's the only area that genuinely creeped me out like no other, and it's one I'll probably never forget. Firstly, the music in this area, or lack thereof. But it's not just complete silence, you can actually hear strange mechanical whirring in the background. And it just makes the area even creepier. The main creepiness of this area are the weird green Bowser paintings. These paintings are just weird and strange. They only show up here and sometimes in jump scares. Other weird distorted paintings can be found here too, like the tiny huge island painting, but the Goombas have no pupils, and the Snowman's Land painting, but one of the snowmen is a Mr. Eye, and the white-eyed peach painting. The maze seems to be in complete disrepair due to there being tons of cracks in the walls. Some of them actually are able to be entered. Now about that, one of these cracks you can enter will keep going and the mechanical whirring will get louder. You'll eventually find yourself in a replica of the beta lobby, where you started your journey. Once you enter here, you cannot escape, as brick walls were mysteriously placed behind you. There's no levels here at all. The only way to escape is entering the door that would typically take you to the courtyard, but instead it'll just take you back to the start of the maze. You can keep going forward to enter a hallway. You will see a toad. The mechanical whirring gets louder and louder and the screen starts to shake, before getting close and you get jump scared. Now, I think the actual jump scare is the weakest part, being the same one as it is in Silent Sewer. But the build-up is just so cool, and it entirely makes up for it. I remember the feeling I had when I first found the little beta lobby section, and I was genuinely kinda scared. And no other B33 area has put actual fear in me. Mostly just unease. I'll never forget Unsettling Maze. I also found it so damn late into my playthrough as well. I was not expecting something like that to exist whatsoever. Truly one of the best. The bronze medal goes to number 3, Polygonal Chaos. The area is in a dark void that expands almost endlessly in some sections, filled to the brim with seemingly broken code and textures. The layout is nonsensical, with random wall patterns lying about, along with assets from areas all across the plexus, like the broken mirror room, houses from Wet Dry World, and so on. This area seems to be inspired from Mario Classified, as similar broken textures would appear in the episode Epilogue, where Stanley seemingly was at their breaking point. This area can be super confusing to traverse due to not only being filled with invisible walls that you can seemingly only enter one way, random doors that lead to nowhere, and even doors that are inaccessible. Just the sheer scale of this lobby makes it stand out so much. It's not all just for show, there are actually a few levels here, some of the weirdest ones too. SGI Indy can be accessed by finding a strange destroyed mechanical object, while Shadow Forest can be entered by finding a strange black and white painting, somewhere in all the chaos. Weirdly, some parts of this lobby seem a bit more stable than others, parts such as the lead up to Vanilla Lobby being relatively normal, sort of hints as the way of escape. This was one of the first areas I ever found, so it was always super memorable. I theorized that perhaps this was either a super early creation of Stanley's, testing out the textures, or more likely is an area that represents Stanley losing their mind, causing an entire area to turn out like this, perhaps in a spout of rage. The layout and design alone is just so weird, and there's nothing else really like it anywhere else in B33. The silver medal is going to number 2, Parallel Lobby. This is probably a lot of people's number ones, as I've noticed it's super popular. This lobby essentially encapsulates what B33 is. A lot like Dry Town in a way, but instead as a lobby. It's a weird altered version of the Vanilla Castle, instead with its iconic yellow walls. The music here is the best in the entire game when it comes to lobbies. It fits the vibe perfectly, and I don't see any other track working as well. I've mentioned it in other videos, but this lobby is the most dreamlike in all of B33. A weird parallel version of the castle containing all 3 floors, just everything's different. I think the best section is the initial room that contains the Toad NPC, who kinda explains B33 perfectly, talking about how every door has something new, discovering floors of the castle never seen before. Each section of the lobby is quite different in a way. One room has a bunch of different doors branching off with a pit that mirrors the Hazy Maze Cave one, 3 large slopes in a room leading to the Bowser fight that mirrors the one in Base 64. Even the first floor that you enter looks like a smaller, altered version of the main room from Vanilla Lobby. What this lobby is trying to do, it does perfectly. It's like Mario 64 from a different universe, or a dream. This area has a ton of levels too, so coming here is a must. But it's not my number 1. That has to go to number 1. Floor 2B. This is my favorite area in B33, and is the most memorable to me, and that's because it is the first unsettling area I found. This area is when I fell in love with B33 and its concept, when I realized I have to find every area and explore everything. I wasn't actually too crazy hooked on B33 before finding Floor 2B, but when I did, it all changed. This area is pretty simple in concept. It's a version of the castle's second basement, altered in a way to make it pretty unsettling. It's absolutely massive, a seemingly common theme with all B33's areas, and most notably the slowed down rendition of Peach's castle. It just being slowed down that much just makes it so much creepier. Floor 2B originates from the MIPS Hole wiki, like many areas, but it's one of the most popular and well known for the pretty liminal photo. This area is mostly split into 3 sections. The first is the main room, the same room where the iconic photo was taken. It contains a few levels and some warps. The second is the massive maze section that takes up the bulk of Floor 2B. And finally, by swimming through a water section, you can get taken to a strange art gallery of sorts with many of the game's paintings. The maze section is the most interesting, as it's just so weird to explore. It's really easy to get lost in, but a star can be found in the maze, along with other warps to leave. The maze in certain sections seems to be in complete disarray, with fallen over pillars and Bowser paintings that are slanted and seem like they're about to fall over. The painting's museum section seems to be the most stable of them all, being relatively normal size and pretty good shape structurally. This is where another level can be found as well. Overall, this area manages to take the normal Peach's Castle textures and assets and craft an area that gives off an entirely different vibe. I'll never forget finding this area and getting hooked on B33 because of it. Without this area, there's a chance my channel wouldn't even exist. I mean, realistically I would have found another sick area, but this one is still my number one, and I think it's the best area in B3313.